Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Five Reasons YouTube channel. And on Android, we recommend Spotify. Also, check out Off the Floor. I say this every day, but really no day better than today. We have a draft channel after 7 o'clock today. That's where everybody's going to be that's not on playback. We're also going to be on playback, playback.tv/5RSN or 5RSN. So you can pick your poison. But we recommend that you check this out because there are also 9 other channels there, plus our stage shows, the host updates. We posted a million things already this morning. I mean, why sift through Twitter and Elon's algorithm? We're going to give it all to you on Off the Floor. So link right here in the description, bypass the Apple upcharge. Also, we tell you to sign up for Prize Picks. We know the NBA and NHL are on hiatus. Stanley Cup champions, of course. The Cup lives in Florida. But you can still play WNBA, MLB, golf, tennis, and more. So check it out. It's Prize Picks. Use the code FIVE. Put down your 5. Get 50 to play right away. And now, today's latest episode.
Mercy. Luxurious. Heat Nation. Yeah. Mercy and Lago. Down to Biscayne. Yay. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing bubble frauds. Down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust. It's about have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Podcast number 81 since the Miami Heat were eliminated from the playoffs. 81. Done 81 podcasts, and they haven't done anything other than extensive qualifying offers.
Hardest working man in the business, but at least you don't be on your phone playing solitaire during games, Ethan.
That's true. I know. I'm actually walking around the lower bowl trying to find food. Yeah, they need to pick up the pace on that a little bit in some of those spots. I will say that they're going to get mad at me, but the Panthers arena is faster. Okay, and I'm now going to be barred. See, people think I would lose my credential for saying something critical about the team, but it's actually for something like that. Okay, we mentioned subscribe to Off the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on 5 Reasons Sports. We got Eternal Bast. You can follow him at Eternal Bast. Also, he'll be on playback tonight. He'll also be on the Discord monitoring all of you as I'm monitoring him. I'm going to be at the arena with Brady and Alex. The Heat are having a draft party, so check that out. Go to heat.com. You can find that. We might bump into you down there. I've had a lot of memories at these draft parties. Now, we will not be at the draft party itself for the majority of the time. We're going to be actually in the interview room. I can already taste the pizza and pasta that's coming. But I've been to so many of these. I remember sitting with the great Barry Jackson. You have to refer to him as the great Barry Jackson. It's like he's a knight. I was sitting with the great Barry Jackson in the SunTrust building when the Heat had a second-round pick, and we were saying they got to take Michael Redd. And they took Eddie House, which actually for a second-round pick, Eddie worked out just fine. The whole free Eddie House movement, played in the finals, all that good stuff. But they would have been better off with Michael Redd. So this is how far back I go on these. This will probably be like my 25th draft I've covered in Miami. I was in New York last year. And this one, we'll see if they actually make the pick. And that's what we're going to talk about now, because we've already got an episode up about Walter Clayton Jr. I know people want us to talk about Kuminga because there's a report from Anthony Slater, who's a very good reporter, saying that the Heat have interest. I've heard that too. I can tell you I trust Anthony's reporting on this. And we did a Kuminga episode, so check that one out that I did with Alex about 5 days ago, because that covers a lot of what we think about that possible pursuit. But Eternal has a theory here that the Heat may look to move up, and I have a theory that that's not going to happen. I think they're more likely to move out and trade this pick and pick up a future pick, like say 2027, to try to balance their pick books to
Mhm.
put them in better position to actually get a star when one becomes available. I think that's more likely. I think they're going to make the pick, but I
Mhm.
think it's more likely that they trade out completely than that they trade up. Make the case for them trading up.
Well, I would say first and foremost, just because of the talent that is in this draft, you have Cooper Flag, you have Dylan Harper, you have Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, you have Trey Johnson, you have K2, you have so many lottery-based players available who all can't go in the lottery, and then you have some guys that are in the next tier in that 11 to 15 range, and we know some guys opted out of the draft and went back to college to kind of up their stock some more. But one of the most interesting things, Ethan, that me and Brian talked about, and we even talked about it on here, is that you have playoff teams in the draft, in the lottery, right? You have Dallas, you have San Antonio, you have Philly. That's just the top three, just the top three alone. And we're also hearing so many reports about 2 and 3 possibly trading either down or trying to get a star. We see so much movement around the league. We've seen a bunch of trades happen within the last 2 weeks, especially in the last couple of days. Teams are trying to get better, especially with the new CBA, putting more emphasis and importance on building your team either through the draft or being very strategic of how you build your roster, because you can't do the piling together of massive contracts to build a championship team. So I do think with so many playoff teams in the lottery, at the top part of the lottery and in the bottom half, and we've also seen reports of OKC, the champions, trying to get into the latter half of the draft and even other teams. So I do think there will be opportunities available for the Heat to trade up there.
All right, the only place I wanted to stop you was you called Philadelphia a playoff team, and I know that they're projected this year, but I have to call you on that just because Alex will get mad at me if we give the Sixers any credit, and they're actually looking potentially to move Paul George,
Right.
on top of that and others, and to try to get rid of his contract, and even if it means attaching the number 3 pick and moving down in this draft. And I understand what you're saying. I mean, logically, a lot of that makes sense. The CBA has turned this into kind of a free for all. CJ McCollum, I said he shouldn't have been traded. He should have been tried. I don't really understand why the players agreed to this. And I do think, though, parity, I guess, is the goal here. You want an NFL-like system. Well, if that's the case, the NBA then needs to get with the program and get its coverage partners to treat it like the NFL is treated. Because if you're going to have a system where pretty much anybody can win any year and it's from any market, then you have to have like your core, television partner speak about more than 3 teams the entire year.
Right.
And that's a huge problem for the league, by the way, and they're aware of it. But it's like they can't get ESPN to change the way they operate. But that's kind of where this thing is going, is that the CBA does not allow you to keep cores together. I mean, look at what's happening in Boston, and I'm no Celtics fan, but I kind of feel sorry for their fans. Like, one player gets hurt, and I understand there was an ownership change and all this, and they were way over the second apron. And then all of a sudden, you're gutting a team that just won a championship just a year ago, and fans have gotten attached to. I don't think this is great for rivalries. I don't think it's great for the game, and I just think the CBA sucks, honestly. But we are where we are, and so that makes these decisions more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, while I agree with your premise that this is a really good draft, appears to be, from those who know a lot more than I do, like Adela and Matt and others in our network and then outside the network, I just don't see the Heat doing it. It is so antithetical. Before I get into the reasons for trading out, it's just so antithetical to the way that they've operated. They've never done it. Never. Like I said, I've covered even that draft, the one I'm talking about, going all the way back and sitting with, of course, the great Barry Jackson and waiting for that second round pick. There was rumors that night that they were going to trade PJ Brown, who was a core piece of that team in the late 90s, one of my 5 favorite Heat players of all time to deal with, great person and really good player. But there was talk that they were going to trade him to move up to try to get, I think at the time it was Darius Miles, and the year before it was Lamar Odom. Okay, these are players that were available in the top 5 that the Clippers ended up taking, and they didn't do either, and they've never done it. The only time that I even, looking back, people talk about trading 3 second-round picks for KZ Okpala. There were 3 second-round picks, okay, and that was a Riley decision, not a scouting decision. And then the other one was Norris Cole, I guess, our friend Norris Cole, where they moved up. Actually, if they'd stayed put, they could have taken Jimmy Butler. But they moved up to take Norris. But that was like a few slots also.
Mhm.
Like they have never eternal. So I'll just ask you, because again, it's been 3 decades of this.
Right.
This is going to be the first time they do this ever. I
Well,
just don't bet on that.
if we talk about strategically, right, and I just talked about how in this new CBA, in this new landscape of the league, how teams have to be strategic. Ethan, if you, someone who is very credentialed, who is very trusted, could say you don't see the Heat doing it, I would see the competitors thinking the same, which also makes it a perfect opportunity, a perfect storm for them to do it. You know, and again, if you ask me to put a percentage on it, right? You can use the hashtag out there, Eternal was wrong if I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. But I would say just because of the teams that are up there and the teams that are trying to move up, it will cause a domino effect. And so we know, and you and I, we can talk about this, the Heat, we're expecting, because they are losing games, right? They are so far, they're looking to be so far out of the playoffs, not enough to catch up with teams that have been tanking the whole year. But there was a very strong percentage chance that they were going to lose the playoffs if they didn't win those 6 straight games, right? So your team is already scouting. Like, they don't just start scouting, late into the season. Your team is already scouting. And at that point, you're projecting towards the lottery. So your team is scouting lottery players, right? They're scouting all the way down. So team scouting department is already doing it. And also, too, you win those games, but you still have to play in the play-in games because you're locked into them. You're not, automatically in a playoff bid. You have to be prepared whether you lose, whether you win. So the Heat ended up winning those 2 play-in games, but they had to be prepared for if they lose, which means you still had those lottery guys. You still were prepared. Excuse me. Sorry for the long talking. You still were prepared for the opportunity, the event that you didn't win, and you would be guaranteed a top 8 spot based off where the Heat were. So I think with all of that, it isn't hopium. I'm not the hopium guy.
No, I know.
This feels like, hey, we already did that work. There could be an opportunity, especially because of the knockout job that Adam Simon and his team have done, and because of how the draft lottery is sitting, there could be opportunity that either teams feel like, hey, because of the trajectory of the league, I would rather have a pick in the future, right? Depending on their team, or I would rather have more picks in this draft, whether that's mid to late first round, second round, whatever. And so there may be an opportunity for a team that's in the later part of the first round, like the Heat, to get into the top 8, or where I think the sweet spot for them is the 11 to 15 range, which wouldn't be that, which is a couple of spots up.
But the problem of this, and we'll talk about this on the other side of the break, is you have to have something to sweeten with,
right?
And they don't have a lot, and so let's get into that on the other side here. Unfortunately, they can't just sweeten it by sending some money on Cash App. If you could circumvent the salary cap, the tax rules, the apron, certainly that would be the way they would do it, because making money moves should be easy. And that's why there's Cash App. And that's why our entire team at 5 on the Floor has Cash App. It actually feels safe. They look out for you if something seems sketchy. They think you might be sending money to a potential scammer, certainly not to Joe Cronin. They'll warn you and make you think twice before you hit send. Yeah, he just gets scammed by the Celtics. It's like having a personal bodyguard for your cash. If for whatever insane reason you don't already have Cash App, just download it from your phone's app store, sign up, enter our code on the floor in your profile, send $5 to a friend, you get $10 just for getting started. For limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, no catch. Just download Cash App and sign up. Use our exclusive referral code on the floor in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days. You get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Okay, I'm going to go through something here, okay? And just give me a second, because I should have had this up beforehand. Miami Heat's future draft picks, okay? This is not the OKC board, unfortunately. So I'm looking at what they actually have. I mean, the outgoing
as of today, because it changes.
Okay.
As of today, right? Because it changes.
Yes, it does. But I'm looking at what they have, and I got this from Fanspo. But basically, I mean, we know the 27 first round pick is going to Charlotte. The
Mhm.
second round pick in 27. I don't even know where it goes. It's like OKC, New York, or Spurs hold right to a swap. No protections on that. Was a second round pick. 2027, that's out. 28 is out. That one goes to Detroit. 29 is out. That one's going to OKC. 30 is out. That one's going to OKC. These are all second round picks that I'm talking about. Literally, the only second round picks that they currently own, okay, are 26. They don't have one this year. We know that. 26. It's a whole swap situation. I'm not going to read through all this. 27, they have one. And then 31, 2031. Okay. And that's a swap with Utah. So I'm just saying, like, how you typically sweeten these trades is you throw in a second. I mean, look at what happened with Durant and Houston. They threw in 5 seconds. Jay Crowder.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even understand the value of seconds.
Yeah, the seconds is
I mean, except that you don't have to pay guaranteed money and you get the player before he becomes an undrafted free agent. But the Heat have been better at finding those guys once they just hit the free market than in the second round anyway, with the exception of, like, I guess you'd say Mario Chalmers, Josh Richardson. Like there's a handful, but for the most part, the Heat have not done well in the second round or not used those picks.
Well, I will say, because of the recent success of what Adam Simon and his team have done, who's to say what they could have done? You know what I'm saying, with the second round pick.
But they had to use those to attach. But here's the problem: they had to use some of those, and we did a podcast on this, to attach to mistakes.
Which and for people that say we don't criticize them, we have done it on playback. You've done it on here. We've done it in Discord.
Right.
That Desmond
the Desmond move.
The Desmond build, it was a bad one. You had to get off KZ. There was somebody, was it Mo? No, it was somebody else that they had to get off of.
No, they didn't have to pay a second to get off of Harkless. I have to look back at all of these, but they've had to throw in. It's like the little extra candy, like on Halloween. Like, okay, here, take a blow pop. You know, it's kind of like, you know, or there's an extra 3 Musketeers. Like they've had.
Did they just do it with Thomas Bryant too?
Thomas Bryant was a swap.
Okay, it was a swap. Okay,
but again, like it's. They don't have that currency. Like they don't have the extra change. Okay. So, I mean, again, a Cash App, you don't need it. Use the code on the floor. They don't have that extra change. And so it makes it very difficult to kind of get these deals over the edge, because then you're looking, okay, so what else do you have? Well, it's got to be part of a bigger deal then.
Right.
And like, so trading Duncan's contract, there's complications to that now, which we did a whole ep on that as well. Then, you know, I mean, some of these smaller deals, like, I mean, nobody's going to really want Kyle Anderson's last 2 years. I like him as a player, but I don't think that's attractive. Haywood, maybe, like somebody will take, that's a cheap deal this year.
Yeah.
It's got to be a contender though, really, because I think he fits best on a team like that as a role guy. I'm just saying, like if you're trying to move up, and I know these things are pressed at the draft, you don't have much time. Okay, other teams are calling, right? I don't know how they sweeten it, and that's where I come down. I understand why the purpose of it, getting the player locked, cost controlled, all that, but how do they sweeten this thing?
So it's funny that you say that, because now that you and I are actually doing this brain exercise, there are moves before the move, right? Maybe it is Haywood and Duncan for some seconds, or like some future first swaps or something like that, where a team that is on the fringe of competing, like a Detroit or something like that needs extra shooting, that needs another body that's been through the playoffs and stuff like that, or like whatever. There could be some teams around the league where you can find those sweetener deals, right? That you're talking about as far for second round picks, just specifically for second round picks. So you can put something else together to get, like you can't put those second round picks with either a Nico, either a Jaime, either a Tyler, or whatever, Andrew, whatever, to get.
Oh, you just see, you had to get that in, man. What we at 19 minutes, and you got Tyler Hero being traded for seconds. Can we aggregate that?
No, not for seconds. Okay. No, don't do that. I said the move before the move. The move itself. The move is.
It's not happening. That's why I'm saying to you, like, I understand the premise. I get the idea of getting the cost control player in a really, really good draft. I just, I just don't. I don't see it. I think other teams come over the top with a couple second round picks that they already have. I mean,
Mhm.
there's no Stepien rule for second round picks. You can trade them all.
Right.
Here's why. So let me pivot to the other side of this, okay? And why I think it's more likely to go the other direction. They have not had their first round pick situation under control for a while.
Right.
This pick with OKC was a thorn in their side forever. Okay, and does that go back to Oladipo? I can't even remember now. I'm so it's all Rozier is 2027, right? So all of this, like this 25 pick, and then trying to get OKC to unlock the pick. They did business with OKC a couple of times. Okay, maybe the second round pick was Oladipo. I can't even remember. But the point is that, and I know that's your guy, but the point is they haven't been able to align their picks, right? Heat
Right.
fans are complaining, okay, that they never have the assets to do anything when they need to do something. This just came up in the deal with Phoenix. And let me just say this again, because I don't think this has been translated properly in the media. And Stephen A has no effing idea what happened in the Durant negotiations. And I just keep saying this, like, we just have people reporting information that they don't know anything. It had nothing to do with what the Heat not being willing to give up one or two of their young pieces. The problem was to make a trade with Phoenix, and I probably should have done an entire episode on this, but we were all up against the draft. To make a trade with Phoenix, they had to be able to trade money to make the money match. And the money that they were trying to trade was Wiggins and Rozier, okay, which both are attractive or unattractive for various reasons. Rozier's only attractive nature at this point is that he's in the last year of his contract. So there was some benefit maybe to taking a player on the last year of his deal. Wiggins' attractiveness, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a neutral contract when they acquired him. It doesn't seem like it, okay? At least Phoenix didn't think so. They needed that to make the money match. Phoenix had no interest. So you had to like line up all of these players to get to that point before even throwing in the picks. And so my understanding is the Heat and the Suns, for all the talk about it, were never really that close again because they would not take Andrew Wiggins. It's really that simple. So we get to this point with every trade where they don't have enough, right? Like the player is interested in coming to them, but they don't have enough. And so I understand the logic, even though it would destroy my night and the fans would all groan. Okay. I understand. I don't know that I can do all these podcasts on a team that's not interesting anymore. But okay, I understand the logic of saying punt it. Punt it. Punt the pick. If you don't love somebody at 20, pick up a 20. If you can get a 2027 pick from somebody who's wants the player right now, take the pick, get your picks in order, get out of this Stepien rule situation. You'll have more to trade in the future when a real star comes up. Do you see the logic? It's not what I want to see tonight. I'll just be clear on that. For personal, totally selfish reasons, it's not what I want to see tonight. Okay.
I got you in 2 podcasts to admit for selfish reasons.
I gotta do like, and poor Greg has got to do 41 home podcasts as the host. And like, if they're going to be an 11 seed fighting for a 10th play-in spot at the end, I mean, God help him. He's going to need all the mood gummies he can get, like code 5, use that code. But so I'm not like, from a personal standpoint, like I'm not in favor of this, but from a team building standpoint and what we've been complaining about, I'm kind of like, that sort of makes sense. Like, look at what Washington's done the last few years. They took these bad contracts. They have a direction now. I'm not saying they're going to execute it, but at least they're not like in this endless pit. Boston, they took a direction quickly.
The Nets.
Atlanta has taken a direction. Like, so I'm just saying this would be a direction. It would be, okay, we're going to build assets. Okay, that's where we're going. Do you see any logic in it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think what you and I are talking about in this episode and what we talked about in the last episode and a couple of episodes is if people are paying attention, and I disagree with you and Greg, which I understand from the certain standpoints of why you're saying it, but I do think Miami has signaled a direction for what they want to do. They're not going to overspend to make some changes. They recognize where they are as far as assets, and they're either going to do something that makes sense within the scope of what they have, or they're going to build on it, which is why I made, the pitch for them trading up, just because it's a perfect storm for it, right? Like, it's not a reach for them going up there to get somebody. You do have, I mean, when you look at where they are with Tyler, and I know how people feel about me talking about Tyler, but You look at the Jalen Greens, you look at the Jordan Pooles, you look at the Desmond Bain, Anthony Simons. So many in his peer group as far as archetype
Yeah, they've all
have
been
been
traded. They've all been
have all
traded.
been traded. You know what I'm saying? And so,
The only one who hasn't been traded is Maxey.
right.
They paid him,
And
but other than that, they've all been traded. You're right. No, I can't argue with that. It's clear what teams are doing. They're deciding that they can't pay that for a third guy because because Bain, Simons, they all project
Mhm.
as Poole. Maybe I think that's asking. Tyler's better than Poole in my opinion, but they all project as third guys.
Right.
Okay, on a really good team because they have too many limitations. In Tyler's case, it's defense. They have too many limitations to be counted on to be one of your top two on a championship
Mhm.
contender. And so those teams are saying we can't pay those guys that kind of money, whereas other teams are saying we need that right now for what we're
Exactly.
doing. Okay, I totally understand your point there. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're too tied to Tyler for that to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. So these podcasts are always two different things. They're like what we think they should do and what, based on their track record, they will do. And
Right.
their track record is of winning, so probably we don't know as much as we think we do.
I'll back you up, right? I'll
Yeah.
back you up on what you were saying, which the point I was getting to is that I think you make a decision on Tyler now or Tyler later. And I think
Yes.
you either trade Tyler for something to get up in the draft now, or if you do trade the pick, right, and you do say, hey, line up your picks for later, and you do get like an extra 27. So then you have 2 first-round picks, which is what they would have had this year if they missed the playoffs, right? They would have had
but
2
then they
first
would. But then they would have had that unprotected bomb.
Yeah, of course, right.
Right, which would have been a total mess. But yes,
Right.
I agree. All right, so this is the final one, and let's do this in 1 minute because I got to get ready for the draft. And probably now, as you say it, like everybody will be in a 14 jersey at the draft party, and then there'll be an announcement that he's been traded to move up 5 spots. I don't think that's going to happen. Don't aggregate that. But the final thing is, wouldn't going after? I have my doubts about whether this is a good decision, and Alex and I, again, devoted 30 minutes to it. But because the reports are out there, and I do believe the reports to be credible, at least from the sources they're coming from.
And you also haven't heard no. You haven't heard no.
No, I haven't heard no. I haven't shopped it everywhere, but I haven't heard no. Let me ask you this: Would going after Jonathan Kuminga be a direction?
Yes.
An age 23 player who clearly has upside, but he's been a sort of a bad fit where he is. Although I don't think he's a better fit in Miami with their current roster, but but it would be a direction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think because you have 28-year-old Bam, whatever you do with Tyler, if he's there, 25-year-old Tyler,
20-year-old Ware, 21-year-old Jovic, if he's still
like you, right. And also because you have seen more than flashes with Kuminga. Yeah. In Golden State. You've seen him there since 19. He's been on that championship team and he played a part. So you see different flashes, and also too,
I just don't want him shooting corner threes on this team.
Well, the thing. So to make it quick, the thing with Kuminga is there's so much that you can unlock. Literally, I know we do this all the time with other players. He's 22, so he's not a finished product. There's so much that they can unlock with him. The thing you don't have to question with him is defense. You don't have to question defense. You don't have to question his athleticism. His metrics show that he gets to the rim and he gets to the free throw line.
No, he'd be the best athlete on the team right away.
Right. Which is saying something because you still have Bam. You also have Khalil. Like they upgraded their athletes on the team. So especially too, if it doesn't cost you anything, that's the main thing. We know Andrew Wiggins. If we're looking for a team that wants Andrew did not want to leave.
By the way, Warriors fans still would make that swap. No, they're not making the decision. Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Joe Lacob are, but like they would still make that swap. They want Wiggins back, and it doesn't seem like Wiggins really.
Now let me ask you a question. Do you think you and I know we talked about it in the Discord, make sure you check it out, but I don't think it would cost them a pick. If anything, maybe swaps, but it could be the same Josh Giddey.
Well, you also got to make the money work, which means you got to sign. Kuminga's got to be signed.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Along the lines of what Wiggins is being paid, right?
Let me ask you this:
unless there's other players.
Before we end, do you think Kuminga would sign a incentive lace deal. So you think he would try to get all? So what we're looking at?
Turn down $35 million a year, something like that, 30 or 35.
I
thought that was pouring out of Golden State.
Wouldn't he take that for another team?
He ain't a $40 million a year player.
Oh, he's not.
He may become one, but I'm saying, like, see, this is why I pulled this, and I was interested to see the response. DeMar DeRozan makes 25 each of the next 2 years, right? Wiggins makes 30 each of the next 2 years. Kuminga would have to come in somewhere around 30, I think. If that's the case, and I said, if you have all of them at similar salary, DeRozan's a little bit less, which one would you take? And 80% of Heat fans responded to that poll so far said Kuminga, with 10% for the other two. And I think it's a direction potential play, basically.
Yeah, I think if you can get Kuminga, which I think you can, but especially based off what we've seen around the league, Ethan, because his agent can only do so much, right? I think you can get Kuminga from 30 to 35. I think you could possibly get him at 28 if the deal is laced with incentives of, like, you make an all-star thing, you do this.
But a lot of these incentives in the, you gotta understand too, and we ran into this with the Tyler situation, a lot of these incentives in the new CBA, even these unlikely to be earned incentives, they count against the tax lines. That's where Tyler's incentives that were signed prior to the new CBA that ended up getting brought into the new CBA because it wasn't grandfathered in. They were, you know, what if you made an all defensive team and all that, these counted. Okay. They counted even though they weren't earned. So these unlikely to be earned. So you got to be careful with this stuff. I'm just saying, I understand, and we'll finish here. I understand the upside play. I get it. And it feels to me a little like when they got Jamal Mashburn early in his career, as I go back that far. And he was one of the three guys. He was a number 4 overall pick, I believe. But he was one of the three guys, and now his son's being drafted, which just blows my mind. That he was one of 3 guys in Dallas. They had the whole Tony Braxton thing, Kidd and Jimmy Jackson and all that stuff. Okay, that was going on at the time. That was
before y'all time.
Before your time too. Anyway, point is, okay, that was all going on. They got Mash. They brought in Mash. We weren't sure kind of what fit he would be. It worked out better than Heat fans remember. But although it was clunky at times, and of course the shot he passed up. But whatever. The point is, I understand the upside play in trying to unlock Kuminga. A front line of Bam, Ware, and Kuminga, though, might be one of the clunkiest in NBA history. So I'm trying to get my mind around it while saying, just do something.
Maybe the opposite happens with him, though.
I need a dopamine fix.
Kuminga comes and becomes a better shooter. Shooters come to Miami and become worse shooters. Who knows? Maybe it's the opposite. Right. I will have you on the hot seat right now. Do they trade up, or do they trade the pick, or do they take someone at the pick?
Most likely is they make the pick, and I think it'll probably be a safe pick, like a Walter Clayton Jr. But I would say, if I was to rank this, I would say 50% they make the pick, 40% they trade out. And I actually think I'm being too high by saying 10% they trade up. I'm giving you that, but I don't think I'll see it happen.
60% they trade up. Okay.
Oh God, no way.
Yeah.
All right, we got the clip. That's fine. We'll play it.
But you gotta let me do the rest.
Yeah, are they trading up in the 2036 draft? Because I don't see it tonight. I guess I'll get there on time. So Barry, Reynolds, Ira, don't eat all the pasta. I'm gonna be there early. Anyway, have a good one.